And to let me get you. You said you dropped an S-bomb on my show on my show. Hi, everyone. You did, yeah. So if anyone watches last week, you'll hear Wayne swear at the very beginning.
I said the S word?
Uh-huh.
Which one?
Hi, everybody.
Which S word?
Oh.
Hi.
Amanda, I need to get you, back. How do I go back?
I don't know.
I mean, you gotta go back.
Hey.
Oh, here.
Welcome to Wine Wednesday. Surprise.
Hi.
We're back and we have drinks.
Hi.
Am I live?
Yes.
Hi.
Am I sideways?
Jen, you can't say hi to everybody.
I can. Hi.
She didn't say hi to many people. My people don't want to say hi.
What's everybody doing?
Having some wine, enjoying a Wednesday.
I'm back. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Can't cheers Wayne because he's
Oh.
not here.
Jenny,
Yeah.
you need to come in a little bit because you're kind of cut off.
How about you just
Here,
come over this way? What are we
My
doing?
laptop.
Evidently, Jenny ain't moving.
Why don't you just scoot this way?
There, now you're in. Enough.
Ish.
Get nice and cozy.
Yeah.
How's everybody's Wednesday?
Good.
Good.
All good in the hood.
I definitely have the feeling that we're sort of over
Yeah, that's
the
what I
holiday
thought.
slump. I feel like everyone's getting slammed right now in a very, very good way.
Sorry. Mine's all jacked.
Alright, so that's set up.
So what are we talking about today?
What does anybody want to talk about?
Puppies.
Puppies. We have a video of live streamed puppies behind us.
Anybody have any topics they'd like to discuss?
How about
Anyone? Anyone? Yeah, well, I have one.
What's
It's
that?
called multigating. Multigating.
Multigating?
Multigating. What's multigate?
No.
Navigating
Navigating.
multi offers.
Ooh.
How about that?
Try to say that one.
Catch me on a second. Multigating. That's how you say that. All is one word. Wayne, would you like to join us?
I will.
Okay.
Thank you for
Just
asking.
checking.
How come mine's so blurry?
Mine's
Oh, there we
blurry,
go.
too.
Multigating. Wayne Henry is live now.
We're multigating offers.
Multigating offers. That is the 43 Homes way of stating.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
We
Are
are.
we good?
Ish.
Sorry.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers. Salud.
Salute.
Salud is
That's
that?
right.
That's how I say that. I'm a
We can say
hillbilly.
it however we want.
I'm a hillbilly.
Like the last several weeks, you seem very tall to me in this.
Because I'm sitting up straight for once.
I am too. I notice that every time. I'm like, wow, you're all tall and stuff, all that stuff.
So we're talking about navigating multiple offers for who?
Who?
Whom?
Whom?
For whom?
Anyone?
Buyers.
Buyers, sellers.
So,
Mm-hmm.
If the shoe fits.
yep.
What might you be? Anyone out there have been experiencing multi-offers? Because I know my clients have.
Mhm.
Yes. It's been
Every house.
super competitive market.
Oh yeah.
And everybody says it slows down during winter, but it
Not this year.
No.
It slows
It's
down from Thanksgiving through the New Year.
Yeah.
And then January 2nd,
Mm-hmm.
It hit.
watch out.
Yeah.
Floodgates just
All
opened
bets
up.
are off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it has been crazy. So any sellers out there,
Mhm.
please, 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 if you've had a mindset to sell, call me.
Yeah, I know. For the past
Yeah.
few years, we've asked nicely. Now we're begging.
No more,
Because-
no more Mr. Nice Guy.
Because we have people who need your houses.
Yeah, and seriously, it is, I mean, it's,
Specifically, if you have one in Westgate right now,
Mm-hmm.
Brian Leonard, I'm looking at you.
I think specifically if you have a house anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I have a buyer that wants one in Westgate, so
Yeah.
call me.
I had
Yeah.
one in Westgate, but we went in contract as soon as we listed.
Yeah, she actually texted me about
there's a few houses available in Westgate, isn't there? I thought
Like
I saw
three,
three
yeah.
or four. Yeah,
that.
I mean,
Normal, I
cute,
think,
too.
is like 30. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's
Oh,
crazy.
gosh.
And
West Side has been crazy. Like I've been Hilliard, Dublin, Galloway, Grove City. I mean, it's just been nuts. Last
Everywhere.
night, Canal. Like, I mean,
So for your buyers, how are you helping them? What are you doing? How do you get
how
through
do
this?
you? How do you do?
What are your strategies? Jenny, we'll start with you.
Oh, why? Because I'm going through it like today, and yesterday, and the day before. I mean, I think it all comes down to what are you offering the seller? What is going to make it desirable for the seller to pick your offer above anyone else's? And anyone out there, what strategies has your agent done? I mean, do you have, what do you think? I don't know.
Amanda, what do you think?
So I think number one, I try to tell my clients that financing. So the way that they're financing, so obviously number one is cash. People want cash offers.
Cash is key.
Number two.
Why would that be? Why would cash take precedent? Because at the end, it's all cash to the seller.
It is.
Somewhat, because you have stipulations, because if you're doing a FHA, conventional or VA, you're borrowing money from a lender, and they have to, we have to go through inspections, and then we have to go through an appraisal, and so if you have cash, then they know that you just have the cash to just give to them.
And you can close in like a week.
So
Yeah.
have your cash buyers been doing appraisals?
I don't do one, no.
No, my cash folks haven't done appraisals.
I once had a cash buyer do an appraisal,
Mhm.
and
Just the ones?
just the one time.
But people think, and then we go to conventional.
Hey, Tony.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and it removes obstacles, I think, is ultimately, because
Right.
all the contingencies you mentioned, things happen, right? In the course of 30 days, a lot could happen.
Right.
So then cash, a lot of people with cash can close super quick. So
Right.
that could be attractive to the seller as well. That especially if the house is empty, maybe they already moved, they bought what they were going to buy, and
Mhm.
they're doing this after the fact. I think the cash is attractive then because they could close within a
Right.
week or two.
Right. And even if they don't want to close.
Right.
Closings.
It just makes it
And
easier.
so in multiple offers, that's another way, a free
Sure.
way for a buyer to get a house is
Yep.
to offer them the exact closing date that they want.
Yes.
Yes. Do you ever recommend to your buyers who aren't cash buyers to waive appraisal
I
Or
think
to
that
bring the difference.
to bring the difference?
I've
That
done
are
it with
cash.
them.
No,
So-
not cash. So we're a
okay.
financed buyer. The appraisal comes in
Question.
$10,000
but so
below.
so the buyers, first time buyers, and people that don't understand what TJ's saying, sometimes a house will appraise for less than what the agreed sales price is. So situations that are happening with the multiple offers is that so many people are offering above list price. Well, appraisals can go anyway, and even when you price a house well, it doesn't. I mean, you can get a rogue appraiser that will just,
Oh yeah.
blow your sale price away. So what happens in that instance is four things. The buyer can bring the difference in cash to closing. The seller can lower the price to what the appraisal says it's worth. You can meet in the middle, in which case you're still
Right.
bringing cash to closing, or the deal can fall apart. So that's what TJ's asking.
But
Would you bring the difference in cash to
well,
closing? Would you advise?
No.
Would you
No.
recommend
What
it?
I'm
Would you
saying
recommend?
is recommend waiving appraisal on the front end before you ever know what the appraisal is.
Well, yeah.
I think negotiating it is smart. If the appraisal comes
Right.
in low and you can negotiate
Right.
there, but I never advise my buyers to waive it on the front end because if they want to stay in the house for 10, 15, 20 years maybe, but
So I have with this caveat in that it's not a blank checkbook because no one has just. I shouldn't say no one. Most people don't have just an unlimited supply of cash.
right.
That if it comes in significantly different, that they would be willing to make up. So I put a cap
You
on
put,
it.
okay.
Yeah.
So
So
and that makes sense. That's a
So
good
I had
strategy.
a buyer, we'll use the instance, I think the house was around 200,000. So we said she would waive the appraisal up to 210, So she would make the difference up as long as the difference basically was on more than $10,000. So it happened. It came in I think we offered 210, and I want to say it came in at 200. So we were $10,000 off. And what I learned, because this was my first instance with this, and what I learned for the buyer, ultimately, if they have the cash, nothing really changes. And the lender kept saying that to me, and I kept thinking to myself, how's that possible? Nothing changes. I don't understand.
Like the mortgage payment, you mean? Or, yeah.
Because what happens is, so now the lender is lending off of 200,000 versus 210. So the down payment that you put down.
Right.
So say she was putting 20,000 down. So instead of putting 20,000 on 210, she's putting it down on 200.
Yeah.
And 10,000 is going straight to the seller. So she's still only borrowing $190,000.
Right.
So her payment didn't change. Nothing changed.
And I've had lenders tell me
Yeah.
that too, that we've gone over and paid over. And sometimes it just is worth it for that buyer
Mhm.
to pay over.
Now your risk, and what TJ I think was alluding to, is, if you don't plan to stay in the house for a long time,
Yeah.
and you pay over asking price, and you may have to sell in a couple years.
You run the risk of going in upside down.
Yeah.
From the get go.
The way things are going, and if this continues,
I think you'd be fine.
Yeah. But you can't bank on that.
No, you
so
can't.
just weigh your personal situation, I think, is what it boils down to.
And can I say, on the appraisal thing, and then I'll jump off my soapbox real quick. If I have multiple people who are willing to pay X amount of dollars in an arm's length transaction
Yeah,
for,
that's the
then
value.
that should be the value.
Yeah.
It bothers
It's
me
just
so
Market value
much
is
what someone's
ultimately
willing
what
to pay.
someone's willing to pay.
Well,
And
They're
an arm's
willing
length
to pay.
transaction is
Yeah.
a non-distressed
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Right.
We're able to pay.
Banks don't see that though.
No, it's the appraisal rules, and the appraisal looks back, so I don't know how you can assign present value looking backwards.
Yeah.
Because if
Right.
that's the case, nothing would ever appreciate, right?
Right.
I mean, everything would just be what it was, and
And I don't feel like appraisers take into consideration enough with the upgrades and
Mhm.
new roofs and windows.
Agreed.
And I don't feel like those things cost a lot.
It all
My-
depends. Sometimes they do. I just, you
And
just
I go
don't.
to all of my appraisals and make sure that they have those lists, but not.
they don't all want to listen.
You know, my favorite is when the appraiser said, well, the replacement value was like $10,000 above what we were in contract for, but I'm only going to appraise it for $15,000 less. But that bothered me because he clearly recognized the value of the home,
But it is a very different value. Like what it costs to build and what it's a fair market value are two totally different things.
Right.
So I can see how a discrepancy, because you can over improve a home. Someone
yeah.
can
Well,
go in and
absolutely.
put too much money in it.
Well, you have to compare obviously to the
Yeah.
neighborhood, and
So-
sometimes people lose money,
Right,
but
yeah.
they should
It
get
happens.
some
But this
type
this
of
this
consideration.
this was the second time we were in contract for over.
Okay, so Dana asked, who has the final say on multi-offers, the homeowner or the real estate agent? Getting
Real
back on
estate-
topic of the
Well, the real
appraisal.
estate agent never has the
No.
final say.
No, we can advise what we think as far as the terms, what might benefit the seller
Right.
most, but ultimately it is up to the homeowner. So buyers out there, note.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're working with an agent that's trying to pressure you, it's, push back because this is your decision.
Yeah.
We're here to
Yeah.
give you our opinion and our thoughts.
Sometimes they don't know which
Right.
one to choose, and so
Right.
you advise.
Yeah. I mean, I always give them advice, but
You have to, that's what
you
we're
make
here
the
for.
decision.
That's
Right.
why would
So-
you hire a real estate agent otherwise?
Yeah.
If not for expert
Absolutely.
advice.
Um,
So,
So what other kinds of things are you taking into consideration
So-
in multiple offers?
Three ways that I do, like for the buyer, is the closing date the seller wants, and then a high amount of earnest money. So earnest money is a good faith deposit, and I think that the more you offer, the better your offer looks.
so earnest money at the end of the transaction goes back to the buyer and
Right.
can be applied toward the down payment or back in your checking account, whatever you
Right.
prefer to do. But the good faith deposit, that's what that means. So, it comes back to you. Now, the only time it comes into question, and forgive me, my buyers, because you've heard me say this word for word 100 times. If the inspection is bad and you're not satisfied with the condition of the house, you get the money back. If something happens with financing or appraisal and the contract falls apart, you get the money back. If
You're
you
within
are
dates.
right, well, yeah, I mean, so there are terms within the contract that you should read the contract to know
Every
what
time.
it says. But say a week before closing, you're still looking at houses and you find one that you like better, and you decide you don't want to purchase that house anymore.
Well,
Then it comes into question, and it can either be difficult for you to get back and take up to 2 years, or a seller might be entitled to a portion of that, or if not all of it.
you're opening
So-
yourself to litigation.
Right.
and-
Just make sure that you want the house.
Right.
Don't offer on houses you don't want.
Yeah.
Well, and that's happening a lot though in this
Yeah.
market because
Then one
You know,
that, like,
within-
we have to buy.
within
It's so much pressure.
a day or two, houses are going in contract,
Mhm.
and there's not a lot else for sale to offer on. So I think there is a lot of buyer's remorse going on in the market where
Absolutely.
you get in, and it's becoming, I think, more common that people are getting out during the inspection because they have that moment where, oh no, what did I do?
Yeah.
And
Right.
now
I really
I've
like this
got
house.
to
Right. well, this one came up yesterday. I want to go see that one.
Yeah,
And they
stop
feel
looking at the search when you go into contract.
They want,
That's
you know,
a true
they're like,
story.
well, I
I
want this
mean,
house now.
literally. I
But
see
they
you
feel like
looking.
they don't know, you know, and it's tough. It is a.
It's hard market. It's a hard market, and this is just
you're
one of the
not
harder
going to be
things
leaving this
to
house at the altar.
navigate.
The,
Hey, Tracy.
the wording I use about earnest money is you get it back as long as you adhere to the terms of the contract.
Right, exactly. And that is
Because
the
you know
be-all
the
and
dates and all that stuff matter. You know, you miss your inspection deadline or the remedy deadline, and you want out because the house is falling down or whatever, and you miss the dates.
all. Too bad.
You've waived your contingency at that point.
Yeah.
So just read your contract, watch your dates.
Listen to your agent
Who you're
when they
getting
say something's due tomorrow.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and you know, your agent should be reminding you about dates, but ultimately, it's incumbent on you to know when your dates are. So keep your own timeline.
I do know that some discussions that there are some buyers that will waive the remedy, which I tell my sellers it's kind of, in some sense, a useless waiving of a contingency because they're not waiving their right to say, I'm unsatisfied with the condition of this house, so I'm walking away. They're waiving their ability to come at you and say, will you fix this?
I don't think it's useless in the least.
I don't either.
I think it's a great contingency, and I will oftentimes recommend it, depending on the condition of the home. I mean, and
Right.
how handy.
If
so
someone,
to say the
I
buyer
mean, just
may
to
be.
think if they have to put a radon system in, that saves them $1,400.
Right.
well,
But they could still say, I'm unsatisfied with it, so I'm just walking
Well,
away.
yeah,
So,
but
I mean,
you should absolutely have that right still. I mean,
Well, no,
right,
well,
you know,
I know. I mean, I
something's
had-
too much, but
I had someone come look at one of my listings last year, and we went to contract because they even waived the inspection. They weren't FHA or VA. They didn't have to do an inspection. They waived the inspection.
Yeah.
And that, to my seller, was more valuable than the other offer at the same price that waived the remedy.
well, certainly if you're presented with both,
Both, right.
but you're not presented with both oftentimes. So I think the one is
it's not
very
as
good
common
option.
to have an inspection waived. However, if you want, talking about how to navigate multiple offers and give yourself a leg up,
Something to consider.
you don't have to necessarily pay for an inspection, but bring a contractor with you
Mhm.
to a showing before you put your offer in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
They
think that's
may
a
not
good
be
idea.
able to get up on the roof, but
Kidney
they
diet
can have.
and-
Well, I mean, there may be inaccessible things that an inspector, but if you bring a good contractor through, I think you can get a very good feel of what you're. Because let's be honest about an inspection, the same stuff seemingly comes up
Right.
most of the time. So there are like 4 or 5 major things that
Mhm.
you really have to look at: electrical, plumbing, roof,
Foundation.
and foundation. So those 4 things, like if you can get a professional that has the ability to give you an opinion on those things before you make an offer, and they say this house is in great condition, I wouldn't be worried.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you want to make yourself stand out above another offer, that is a good way you could do it.
I like that strategy really well.
But you have to also understand you've now waived a right.
Right.
You're no longer able to do it. Or you could just make your inspection window very short. Like normally I'll write in 10 days. What do you
Mhm.
guys do?
10.
How long do you?
It depends on the offer.
Uh-huh.
If it's not competitive, then 12.
Sure,
If
yeah.
it is, then 7.
I'll do 5 to 7, depending on when the weekend's falling.
Yeah.
Like if the weekend's going to eat up 2 or 3 of those days, then I might go up to 7.
I mean, you could call your inspector and say, hey, we're putting an offer on this house. They're getting back to us by, the day after tomorrow. How soon can you get in? And if they say, I can get in 2 days after you go in contract, then write a 3-day inspection contingency. Because for my sellers, if it's going to fail, for
Right.
those things, I want it to
Oh,
fail
it's gonna
fast.
fail fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Because if you get multiple offers on the sell side, then you went in contract and you had 3 or 4 other offers. Then it's 3 days later, if it falls out because of the inspection, you immediately reach back out. More than likely, in this market, they haven't found something else.
right.
So you've mitigated risk. So as much risk, I think, as you as the buyer can mitigate for the seller, the stronger your offer
Right.
looks, is what I'm getting at. So
Now, one strategy from the buy side, if you know that you're not going to be, if you know that you find out you weren't the strongest offer and you didn't get it, I will talk to my folks about whether or not they want to submit to be the backup offer.
I don't usually do backups. You guys do backups?
We've had it asked,
we
and
have,
just I don't
and
know.
it works. It has
I
worked
don't
out
see
for me
really the value
because
too much, but
from the seller's perspective, they're like, well, if this person wants to start negotiating, I already have something still on the table. I can call, and if I want to take it, I take it.
But to me, that's a red flag is the next buyer. That this fell apart because of the inspection, and they've already told me they're not going to be willing to work with me.
With that being said, though, oftentimes it's falling apart during the inspection because of the crazy
Cold
market.
feet,
Yeah,
yeah.
so you know,
Yeah, you never know.
you never know. You
I
just
recommend
never
it
know.
for my sellers. I don't usually recommend it for my buyers.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
in case.
yeah,
I mean, but you can always put it, do that and then.
Yeah, as long as you
Keep
notify
looking.
them that.
Yeah.
You're
As long as you
filling
notify
out.
them that you're removing your backup offer before they accept it, there's no harm, no foul.
Right.
I guess the benefit is you're the backup. If it fails, then you're now the primary offer, and then you're not going to get back into multiple offers again. I guess
Right.
that's the benefit as I see it. But
I mean, I had some folks that saw something that literally went on and off the market in 5 minutes, and they really wanted it, and so we submitted a backup offer today, and they're supposed to close in the next couple days, and if they don't, or if the person wants to extend, they know that they actually have an offer for what we think is more, what we believe is more than what they're in contract for.
sure.
So we've got a strong position.
So from the seller side, what kinds of things are you advising people in this situation? Like, how are you handling when you list the home? When you list, what's your strategy? If you think you've got a hot listing, what's your strategy when you list?
I make a spreadsheet. No, seriously, I take
What's
out,
in that
I put, no, so we just basically run through the terms and conditions of the contract, everything where you can put in dates and financing type. That way it's easy for them to literally scroll through, loan type, who's the agent, did they provide their pre-approval letter, who's the
I'm talking
bank?
about before you list. Like,
Oh,
when you're presenting your listing to the seller and you're going to put it on the market, what's your strategy? Are you
So that you
just
get
going to take an
multiple
offer?
offers?
Yeah. Are you just going to take the first offer you get? Or are you advising them to list on a
I
date
think
and leave it open for a
I
number of
think you
days?
kind of
or-
have to just play it by ear because you assume there's going to be multiple offers, but you can't really do that. So
I think
I would say list on a Wednesday and then have showings over the weekend. And if you get more than one offer, then you call for highest or best.
I think on the hottest listings I've seen, they all start with an open house, which is a great, then people can just get in, or not, or come back within however. But and then what we've seen a lot as agents in the listings is offers will be open until, and I think that's a good fair way. Offers
To
will be
get everybody.
accepted, for several days until 6 p.m. on whatever, and then everyone gets a chance. It's less pressure. It's
I've always been
buyers
hesitant
can
to
go
do that
in.
because what if you don't get an offer and then you look like a fool?
Right.
Well,
Well,
that can help with that.
Melissa
I
used to
don't-
say this listing won't last, and it has 250.
Well,
days
yeah, I
on
see
it.
that all the time. You're
Yeah,
doing it.
if you just
Yeah, I
ultimately
just-
you don't know.
Like my listing coming up, I'm going to do 2 days of open houses, and then they can schedule showings.
So you're gonna
around
list
that.
on Wednesday.
And then
And will
have
showings start on
Saturday.
Saturday? Okay.
Saturday at noon at my open house.
Would you like to tell everyone the address of your listing?
Not quite yet.
Oh.
It's in Gehanna, so Gehanna.
Anybody looking? in
Hot
here?
area of Gehanna. Hot house in Gehanna.
So
In
I'll
the 300s.
Oh, nice. So I'll put a coming soon sign on Friday, so it's there through the weekend. We usually list on Wednesdays, and my advice to my clients is let's start showings on Friday morning. That way, folks get a chance to see it, but don't be home. Like, do not be home,
Right.
and then see we usually schedule an open house for Sunday. Because people will want to get their offers in before the open house. And then at that point, when they see sort of what happens, I'm like, you can accept an offer, you can say, you know what, we're going to leave everything open until this time, everyone send us your highest and best. And it really, I think, for me, depends on the seller. I find some sellers, they're like, I don't want to do highest and best, I
Right.
don't think
Some
it's
people
fair. Others are like, yes, let's do it, it's awesome.
Well, I always explain the benefits and the pitfalls, right? Because there
Right.
are pitfalls to multiple offers.
Yes.
I think they're less now. I think a few years ago when this was first becoming more
Market
common,
was just coming back.
people were scared of multiple offers, and buyers would back out because they don't want to compete.
But
Mhm.
now,
Now it's like you're going to compete. So I think everybody's kind of adjusted to that. So I don't think people are as afraid of losing the offers because I think sellers were afraid, well, if I call for highest and best and
Everybody's
everybody
gonna back
backs out because they don't want to compete, then I get nothing.
Well, and buyers know too that highest and best doesn't always necessarily mean above list price. I mean, there are a lot of, like we were discussing, other things that can be offered, because ultimately, and what I always tell my sellers, it is bread and butter to get above list price if the bank appraises it.
Right.
And we do our best. And Dana's got, it seems like a realtor comps would help if you have a hot listing and also help support appraisal. Yes. However, we think we're looking at the same things, and sometimes we're just not. So that's back on the appraisal topic. But ultimately, the bank's only going to pay what the appraisal says it's worth. So even though you may get 10 grand above list price, doesn't mean you're going to get
You're
that.
still running a risk.
Yeah. So
and then the higher
there are
you
other
go,
options that might be
And
more
then that's
attractive.
why for sellers to accept an offer that people write out appraisal.
absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
if you get that option. Yeah.
If you
And
get
if you
one
can do it,
without,
yeah.
A, cash, where they're not doing an appraisal, or B, they're willing to waive the appraisal completely or up to a certain amount.
Yeah.
It's not always the price. You may get one that's $5,000 or $2,000 more, but is going to have an appraisal. But then you get one $2,000 less. They're waiving the appraisal.
Right.
Some people may
They-
view,
yeah.
Or
you gotta-
the terms are better.
waive the repairs.
Or you go back to that person and say, look, we've got another offer that's $2,000 more. You come up to that, and it's yours. And most people in this market for $2,000 aren't going to bat an eye.
Yeah.
Right.
I did get a call from a seller's agent once that she said, my client has asked me to call you to see if you will change these two terms because they like your price but they don't like your terms. Will your client do that?
I do
And I
that
called
all
my
the time.
client and they were like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
Unless you give us a clue of what we're up against, we really have, we're all shooting in the dark. Like, we just don't. So, and agents, please note that with the permission of the seller, you can tell terms of the offer.
yeah.
And if you're going to really do your due diligence for your seller, I think that is a very fair and
What do
way
you
to
mean
go
by
about
term?
I don't.
Well,
I
you
would
can,
never
you
advise that.
can, but if someone's asking and they're willing to meet, you can say, look, we're at this. Can you do this?
Well, yeah.
I mean,
in that instance, but
Yeah.
I would never just say, look, we've got this offer for this.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing as an agent we have to be careful of is if you're going to do that, you have to give all people equal footing and equal knowledge in that situation. You don't want to appear favorable to one over the other for a number of reasons. But like if you're going to tell one that the highest offer you have is X dollars,
mhm.
and you've got 4 offers, you need to tell all 4, in my opinion.
I actually, and I thought this was wonderful, and I complimented the seller's agent on it, was he did it through like the showing service and just
Oh.
lets it out. Look, we're here. This is where you need to be. So, go ahead.
And if there's 4, then you also, I would say in that, if
Yeah.
I'm going to do that,
Yeah,
we've got 4 offers. Right now, this is the highest offer.
yeah. Can anyone? Yeah.
And then what's going to happen at that point, as the buyer, you're going to have to, I always tell my buyers, and this is my advice on the buy side, is you got to throw out a number where you're happy to get it,
Yeah.
but you're also equally happy that if you don't, then it's
Right.
okay.
What do you always tell your buyer?
Would you be sad if it's gone?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
So-
same. Yeah,
Yeah. How? Yeah.
you know.
And I mean,
That's
it's legitimate
It's
question.
absolutely
so-
100% it is.
Yeah. And are you? I mean, I think that another legitimate question is: are you going to regret paying
Right.
this much?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If-
And that's
in
I
the
tell
end-
them that they can only offer as much as they're comfortable offering.
Yeah, it is way too
I
big of an
can't.
investment to get pressured in, and that's I'm afraid with so many people getting pressured, and then a year from now, what if you can't afford that payment?
Right.
I mean, just because you can go that high doesn't mean you
Right.
should.
I only advise to go as high as they're comfortable going.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, 100%.
Well, let's talk about one other thing that
Okay.
was sitting on my mind is an escalation clause. Have
Yeah.
you used those, and do you know
100%.
what an
Got it.
escalation clause is? Who wants to
So-
explain that to
So
people?
basically, we say my offer is for 120,000, or your client says my offer is for 120,000. We will pay $500 above your top offer up to a cap of 125,000 or whatever the number is. So it limits your liability, but it also says we'll go above and beyond.
Above the other, and I feel like some sellers don't like escalation clauses.
That is 100% correct. I had
Which-
two
Why?
sellers last year reject them.
Yeah,
And you know what?
Why?
because they want
It's-
somebody to just give their all.
That's at the opinion of the agent, and
Yeah.
in my opinion, that agent's giving horrible
I
advice.
think so too.
Because you're
Horrible
getting
advice.
someone telling you, I'm going to give you more money, and an agent really angered me
I don't
over
think
this.
it's like
And
the
that we don't
agent.
want an escalation.
Well,
I
I
think
don't
it
think
truly
the
is.
seller
I don't think
person
they know.
understands.
Like,
Yeah.
so I think it's 100% the agent, and we still submitted with an escalation clause, and guess what? We still got it. Like, so because ultimately, I think what makes the difference is how much are you willing to go over that other offer?
Right, because is $1,000 really worth that much in the
And
end?
if your terms are equal
Yeah.
and all things else relatively close,
Mm-hmm.
make it a number that's worth their while. You know, like at 120, 500 might be enough of a difference. At 300,000, $500 isn't going to be enough for someone to say,
Right.
I'm going to take your offer because I'm getting $500
Well, I
more.
think just going over, if you go over asking and then you do an escalation clause is stronger, just
Yes.
because they want to see that you're actually putting forth the effort of going over
Mhm.
completely and then doing the escalation.
Absolutely. And,
So-
you know, it's almost without exception when I have a buyer doing multiple offers, we will include it. Because that's what keeps you from paying. So you don't know what the other, you don't always know what the other offers
Right.
are.
We never usually
So,
know.
So I always
why
recommend
just
a
give
couple
them-
thousand
yeah.
over and then do an
Me too.
escalation.
Yeah.
But you
So
know,
why give them, say, 10, you're just going to promise them $30,000 over the list price when you could have got it for 10,000 over, and you just
Mhm.
threw 20 grand away, so if you're able to get it this way, it's a fairly common strategy now.
Absolutely.
And,
but you know,
make it worth their while, put some meat to the bone, in my opinion.
I had two sellers last year, and no matter how much I explained to them, I even showed them the net to seller bottom line, and both of these sellers last year said, you know what? If they didn't think my house is worth it, and it's literally the only two times I've ever heard this. If they didn't think my house is worth it in the beginning, I don't care because it's really not that much more at the end of the day. I want
It's
to
the
go with
seller's
the person that
decision. I
really
mean,
wanted
they
it.
can
Right.
do
And
whatever
it-
they want. Like,
Yeah.
I've heard that the sellers don't like it, so.
I had someone reject ours because our starting price was too low, which I didn't get at all. Like they were selecting from several offers, so we were in a bad position. We offered, say the house was 200, we went in under asking, but we went over asking in our escalation clause. Our offer was thrown out because ours was the lowest starting price. I don't understand that philosophy,
I
but
don't
it
know.
cost my client. And that was my
Sometimes you
client's
have to
decision.
pick. And there was a situation last year, and 26 offers were presented on a property.
Yeah.
And I asked the agent, how do you even pick one? I mean, there's not that much we can do as agents
Well-
or as buyers to differentiate.
Gosh.
I mean, there's like a few, and he said they were able to narrow it down to 17. 17 offers.
And then they just draw out of the hat.
I mean, I don't even know how the ultimate, but so sometimes that might be
Yeah.
well, they offered too low to begin
Yeah.
with, so.
And I don't know that this was that
Right.
situation,
No,
but
I'm just
um,
saying, like, how
but
else?
yeah, I mean, you do have to, somehow.
Somehow.
And I do find that these things are amazingly close.
Yeah.
I don't usually find the offers to be so significantly different that it
No.
maybe is an easy choice. Like,
I don't see how you could. I mean, ultimately, it comes. What does it come down to? So.
I did have a seller.
how
too.
much you want it. is
Yeah,
what it
I-
comes down to, like, or how much,
I had a seller reject an offer once because it was going to be it was a multiple offer situation. They rejected it because when they submitted the offer, they tried to only give them an hour to decide, and they told me they were like, "I don't like that. I think it's wrong."
I've
And
done that.
Yeah, I have too.
Not an
and
hour, but like,
no,
A
but
couple
like,
hours.
I'll do- and
Give me
I-
six.
I call the agent first though, and I ask the agent, I'm like,
Right.
hey.
right, and people will do that, and I've already had a conversation
It's out of
with my client.
But
desperation.
again, if you make your terms strong enough, then it
Right.
might
That
stand.
they
But
want
if you're
to-
gonna put in a weak offer and only give someone a short period on a hot property, it's not gonna work. Like,
Wow.
usually. I
So
don't
what
think.
did we decide?
There's no one way.
There's no one way.
And
I
Yeah.
think
It's
you need to
up
have
Listen
these,
to
to
your
your
agent.
buyers and sellers,
Yes.
what
And
they're
I-
gonna do.
and talk with your agent and have that conversation.
Hashtag.
Because it's the more you know.
Yes, have that talk and decide. And I think having the talk ahead of time, don't beg yourself mentally in a corner where either as the buyer or the seller, where you're leaving yourself not a lot of time. I find a lot of buyers, it takes a couple times to learn. They have to lose one before they really get it. But if we talk ahead of time and we prepare you for it,
Right.
then maybe you're more ready when the situation happens. And I think preparedness in all of this, it will go a long way.
Yeah. Education is key, and
And not getting hopes up, because I've been wrong on what I thought was going to be a super hot property
yeah.
that sits, and I'm like, whoa, I misjudged this.
There is no magic formula
um,
to any of it. You just really have no idea. Location, condition. I mean, and then we think we've got it.
and I tell
we just
all
don't.
the sellers that I can make you no promises, but I think
If we
Right.
had the crystal ball,
we'd all be rich.
we'd,
Yeah, you kidding,
we'd
right?
probably be president.
Yeah, I don't want to be president.
No.
But yeah, we always have the discussion like,
He's
okay,
made a lot of money in real estate.
Well, that's true. I'll take his money.
he
but-
was a real estate guy.
yeah.
well, we usually have the conversation. This could happen one of three ways. You could get a lot of offers, at which point then let's talk about how we handle that. It could be a minute, so let's talk about what our strategies are if that happens. Or we could get one or more offers in a reasonable period of time. So let's prepare for all the scenarios. Be ready. Take a deep breath and see what happens.
To me, it's like being on a game show.
Oh,
You go on Family
no
Feud.
whammies, no whammies.
So you go on Family Feud, right? And this question every time is at least one of the 5 questions that they ask in like the final round where you're playing for $20,000. It's always like a number. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to do
I'm just trying to
this?
think.
And people always give like weird numbers. That's not even on a 1 to 100. People will say 87. No one says odd numbers. People are going to say 5 and 10 increments. It's
Yeah.
like, so have thought about what the questions are going to be ahead of time and prepare yourself mentally for it. And I think you'll be better at the end of the day.
I'm out of wine.
Me too.
Let's end it.
So,
We're
With
going
all
to
that
Penn's
being
in
said,
Dublin.
if anybody would like to join some of us at Penn's,
At
we'll
Bridge
be there
Park.
at Bridge Park. Yeah, we're headed over
We're
now.
going to go check out the Dublin
Tony
scenery.
Milano, I know
Maybe-
you're watching. Meet us there.
Maybe we'll go live over there.
Oh,
This could be one of your going local, like,
Yeah.
so-
It's kind of local.
it's
It is
definitely
local.
local.
It
It's right. It's a, yeah,
It's as
locally
local as
owned
local
business.
gets, like-
Locally
I know
owned.
that was locally owned.
Oh no, I think it's a national chain.
No,
But it's local in Dublin.
no, Penn.
Alright, so maybe it's
It's
not
a
going
local
local.
owner. Yeah, because
Is
the guy that owns the one in downtown owns this one too.
Yeah,
Oh,
Well, that
okay.
might be a franchise though.
no.
I don't know, whatever.
We'll
So,
ask.
it won't be maybe
We'll
a market
find
one.
out and feature them on Going Local in a few
Maybe.
weeks. If they're local.
We might just go live just to show you the place, and then Jenny and Amanda will go local.
We'll feature
at
it.
some point.
Yeah, so.
Not local.
Okay, bye.
We'll go local.
All right.
Bye.
See ya.
We've got way off.
15